I'm looking at this boarding school in Indiana that tried to register for federal registration as a historical site that did not disclose that there was graves outside and is now being investigated. As of 1 year ago.
Now you can find our full story. We'll be following up with Indiana DNR and bring you updates on this investigation into the boarding school cemeteries. The U.S. Department of the Interior does plan to release its investigation findings this month.
Okay, so Canada is admitting that there was deaths at these schools, and the United States is trying to hide it and has not acknowledged this. And as of right now, we're looking at April 4th, 2022, WTHR posted a YouTube video titled DNR to investigate graves at boarding schools for Native American children in Indiana. So, what the hell, dude? For real.
Of children who lost their lives at these schools remain buried near or on the grounds of those institutions more than a century after they closed. Now the Indiana Department of Natural Resources is investigating whether there could be more innocent victims who remain unaccounted for across the state. At WTHR.com right now, we take a closer look at the history of those two institutions to piece together a difficult part of Hoosier history.
What the hell?
Indiana seeks records for boarding school deaths, doesn't tell tribes. Yahoo News Indian boarding schools URL. A large brick building with trees in the front. Street. Joseph Indian Normal School. Photo, Chris Light, Wiki Commons. By Jenna Coons, April 15, 2022. The Indiana Department of Natural Resources is heading up its own project to locate records and find the names and tribal identities of the Native youth who died while at one of the state's two Indian boarding schools, White's Indiana Manual Labor Institute in St. Joseph Indian Normal School. Jeannie Regan-Dinius, Director of Special Initiatives in the Department's Division of Historic Preservation and Archaeology, said she suggested the project to her boss last June after suspecting that the two 19th century schools wouldn't fall into the Federal Department of the Interior's Indian Boarding School Initiative. We recognized pretty early that the Indiana schools would not fall into that study because the schools were religious-based, Regan-Dinius told Native News Online. The initiative is a year-long investigation into U.S. Indian boarding schools, with a report due out this month, aimed at identifying each federally run boarding school in the country and the location of unmarked burial sites associated with them. A spokesperson for the Interior Department didn't comment on whether or not the federal initiative will include religious-run institutions, which received funding from the federal government and account for almost half of the at least 400 known boarding schools. We knew that there was a cemetery at both schools, Regan-Dinius said. The goal is to find out how many burials there actually are, and to try to identify, if we can, who might be buried there, and then work with the tribal representatives and determine what's best. Quote, never miss Indian country's biggest stories and breaking news. Sign up to get our reporting sent straight to your...
This, though, what's this lady talking about?
The Bureau of Indian Education took over the schools in 1969. Most of them closed in the 1980s, but 15 remain open.
What was these 15 schools?
You all. First, that the department will launch the Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative. At no time in history have the records or documentation of this policy been compiled or analyzed to determine the full scope of its reaches and effects. We must uncover the truth about the loss of human life and the lasting consequences of these schools. This investigation will identify past boarding school facilities and sites, the location of known and possible burial sites located at or near school facilities, and the identities and tribal affiliations of children who were taken there. I know that this process will be long and difficult. I know that this process will be painful. It won't undo the heartbreak and loss that so many of us feel.
What the hell?
But only by acknowledging the past can we work toward a future that we're all proud to embrace.
Kenwood Escalante joins me now. He is the creative director.
Design. The U.S. federal Indian boarding school policies and the ongoing erasure of indigenous people history, it's just been a part of the American blueprint since first contact. As stated, as the Department of the Interior,
She's wanted to know why it is that the American public has not known about this.
Assimilate and disrupt American Indians and Alaska Natives and Native Hawaiians, specifically in the pursuit of acquiring collective territories.
Like, what's going on with the rules at these schools and stuff, like...
Theft, genocide, and assimilation easier to swallow? And let me repeat that.
I'm sorry, but this is just like this 2022, man. And we're trying to figure out
by saying we're going to kill the
still
Indian to save the man.
What
and we're going to bring churches in
we did with
the merciless
these
Indian
people
savage.
in that way. Like, I'm sorry,